Hey, equestrians, Polly from Blue Ribbon Law here. And if you're running a business in the horse industry, you want to listen up because today I'm going to tell you three things you must do to make sure if something catastrophic happens, your family, business, and reputation are protected. The two biggest risks we see in the horse industry are either a person getting injured or a horse getting injured. This video will focus on what you can do to protect yourself if the inevitable happens and a person is injured either during a lesson, on a trail ride, or even as a spectator. Next week, we'll be discussing what you can do to protect yourself when a horse is injured. When someone calls our office and they are starting their business, we generally talk about a stool with 3 legs, and each leg represents one way to protect your liability. The 3 legs together hold up the stool, and they are insurance, proper release forms, and incorporation. Proper insurance. Making sure you have the right type of coverage and enough coverage are two of the most important things you can do to protect yourself when the worst case scenario actually happens. Insurance not only provides protection for a payout if there's a lawsuit, but it's also going to provide you with a set of insurance defense attorneys who represent both you and the insurance company's interest in the case. Depending on what part of the horse industry your business focuses on, there are different types of insurance. For trainers and anyone giving lessons, in most cases, you should get professional liability insurance. This is going to give you coverage if a student falls off and gets injured. If you're a barn owner, you're likely going to want a farm policy, and that's going to give you liability coverage to protect you when anyone riding or handling horses on your property is hurt. Once you know and understand what type of coverage you need, then you want to make sure that you have enough. In most instances, a $1 million policy just doesn't cut it these days. If you're involved in a case where a minor sadly loses their life, that life will be valued at more than $1 million. Unfortunately, we know this from experience and seeing these types of cases after there's been an accident. We generally recommend our clients carry a minimum of $3 to $5 million in liability coverage. But of course, everyone's situation is different, which is why it's good to always speak with your insurance agent. At Hay and Hay, we don't offer insurance services, but we can give you recommendations of agents that can help you. Proper release of liability forms. 48 states have what's known as an equine liability statute, but here in California, we don't have one. Some people erroneously think that that means that there's no liability protection in the horse industry. You might have heard someone say that release form isn't worth the paper it's written on, but that's not true. Not having an equine liability statute just means that attorneys have to keep up with case law to see what the courts want in a release form to make it valid. For instance, we have a case that says a release should be a standalone document and not part of a bigger document. Another case suggests that a release is more likely to be held valid if it's in 12-point font and has 1-inch margins. If you have a trusted equine advisor on your side, they'll know and understand the case law and be able to draft you a release of liability document that complies with California law and can protect your business from future liability claims. Incorporation. While I'll be discussing the ins and outs of business entities and incorporation in a future video, it's important to talk about this third leg of the stool as well. Having a properly incorporated business, whether it's an S Corp, a C Corp, or an LLC, does give you an added layer of protection. In a perfect world, when someone was injured, they would file a lawsuit only against the corporation and your personal assets would be protected. However, as you know, we don't live in a perfect world. In our experience, having handled multiple lawsuits, even with a corporation, the individual is almost always named as well. Now, the majority of lawsuits settle before trial, so this issue is not often determined. However, I never want someone to leave the conversation with them thinking that incorporation is the silver bullet to protecting their liability. It's really just another layer of protection, which if the corporation is run with proper business records, can provide some liability protection. If you're like many of our clients, you are excellent at what it is you offer to your customers. But more likely than not, you don't know all the risks that are lurking in your business. That's where we come in. Call us today to see how we can help you mitigate the legal risks and protect your family, your business, and your reputation. And check back soon for part 2 of this video where I will talk more about how to protect your liability when a horse is injured.